Let's continue on with this part drawing that I found on the internet. In part one, I created the base and two of the cylinders. Right now, I have three separate parts. In this video, I'm going to create the rest of the geometry. Most of it is going to be done with a single additional sketch and a whole bunch of fillets, and then I'll make the extrude on the top and the hole. Let's start out by creating our next sketch. I'll sketch on the plane called front. I will select it, hold down the right mouse button, and then go to new sketch. I always like to view normal to the sketch plane. Now I need a line that's going to go from the top cylinder to here. Let's click on the line command. I will click on, oh, it's not grabbing on there. Actually, let me grab some other additional things to snap into. Let's use the project command. I will grab the cylinder and this top surface. I also know that I'm going to need the bottom surface later on, so let me grab that as well. Actually, I also know that I'm going to need the cylinder over here for the side web, so I will click on it as well. So now I have grabbed four different entities. I have projected two lines and two cylinders. By doing that, I should be able to snap. So I'll sketch, yep, I am snapping in here. And then it's going to be at an angle. So I will click over there. Let me hit the escape key. Let's throw in one of our constraints. I want to have tangency from the line and the cylinder. This line needs to be over on the other side. If you take a look at the drawing, there is a 180 dimension at the bottom for the distance between the vertices. So let's mirror. I will go to the mirror command. Oh, that's symmetric. Where the heck is mirror? It's over here. Mirror, and I will mirror about this entity, and I will mirror this line. Let's create our dimension. I will dimension from the left vertex to the right vertex. You can pick them in any order. And I have almost the exact value that I want. This needs to be a value of 180, 180, enter. For the next entity, we need to have the line going on the inside. And one thing to note about this line is that it starts at the cylinder and goes to this bottom line. That's why I projected the bottom edge, the bottom surface. Let's create our line. I will snap to the cylinder. And also I'm going to let it snap to being parallel to the first sketched line. Let's click the bottom. I will hit the escape key because I do not need to create another line at the moment. It is showing up in blue. Let's put in our dimension for the distance from the first line. This is going to be a value of 20. Hit the enter key. And once again, I am going to create a mirror. Let's click on the mirror command. Let's select what we want to mirror about and the entity that I want to mirror. So this is great for some of my first different entities. You'll notice that we have gray because we have some closed loops. Let's make the different lines on the side. Let me hit the escape key. I'm going to move this dimension just to the inside for the moment just so I can sketch. And let's create a line. And then we'll go from here to about here. You'll notice that I like to exaggerate. Normally this should be tangent, but I'll just make it here and add the tangent constraint later on. It's just something I like to do. And let's see, we need a dimension for the distance from here to here, and this is going to be a vertical distance of 80. And once again, I will throw in the tangent constraint. It's right in front of me. Sometimes it's just like, it's right in front of my eyes and I just can't see it. Let me pan everything over. We also need a line horizontally. And again, rather than trying to get it when I sketch, I don't know, I just prefer to throw it in manually. Let me hit the escape key. Once again, we get a shaded loop. Let's go to tangent between the line and the first cylinder and the line and the second cylinder. Once again, we need some offset parallel lines. Let's go to the line command Now we'll select here, and you know what? Let me throw in the parallel manually. Let's go to parallel between here and here. Good. And hey, while we're at it, let's put in the 20 dimension that we need for the distance. And I think there's just one more entity that I need in this sketch. Let's sketch in a line, and let's see, will it snap to parallel? That's okay if it doesn't snap, because again, I can throw it in myself. Here and here, and then go to the dimension command, and the distance between these two lines is going to be a distance of 20. And that is good for the main sketch for most of the remaining geometry. Let me hit the check mark to get out of the sketch. Let me rotate the model. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut P to turn off the display of my planes. Now we will create our first extrude in this video. I will click on the extrude command, and I'm going to pick this and this and this, and this needs to be a distance of a thickness of, let's see, symmetric. There's symmetric. This is going to be a value of 110. That sounds right. And I will hit the check mark. Now the sketch went away. Oh, let me actually go back to that extrude. Let me edit it. Let me see if I can add material. And let's merge with all. There we go. That is good. I almost made a big mistake there. Let's see, I've got the 3 sketches. Now everything looks good for this particular extrude. And I'm going to start renaming my features just because it is getting confusing for me looking at the tree. Let's edit this, and I'm going to call this my main web extrude. Hit the enter key and then hit the check mark. There we go. And let me rename this one while we're at it. Let's call this the web's sketch and hit the enter key. And that web sketch was turned off. It went invisible. I'm going to make it visible again so I can create my next extrude, which is going to be a cut. Let's hit the extrude tool. I know I want to remove material, and for the face I will hold down the right mouse button on top of the middle and then choose select other. Now I know I want a face of the sketch there. That is good. And I also want another one. And so let me put my mouse about here, right mouse click, select other. Again, it's going to be a face of the sketch. You'll notice that this one is going to go right down to the bottom. We want a symmetric depth, and this needs to be a depth of 70. And this is good. Let's once again rename the feature so that we can tell what it is. I'm going to call this my main web cut. Hit the enter key and then hit the green check mark. And so we've got that going down the middle. I no longer, wait, actually I do need to see the web sketch for what I'm going to create later on. If you take a look at the drawing, we have some fillets on the inside. I want to create those now. So let me rotate the model so I can look into that cut. Let's go to our fillet command, and I will pick this edge and this edge as well. This needs to be a radius of 15. I'll plug in that value and hit the check mark, so that's good for that. I'm creating the fillet now because I want all these related features together. Later on I could create a folder to group them if I wanted to. And the base also needs to have some fillets. So let's go to the fillet command, and I will pick this edge. Let's rotate the model and pick the same edge on the other side. These are going to have a fillet radius of 25. Let's hit the check mark. Let's take care of the side webs now. Once again, this will be an extrude, and I'm going to do the inner web first. So let's click on it, and this is going to be symmetric with a depth of 15. And let's rename this. I'm going to call this my inner side web extrude and hit the check mark. Oops, let's go back. We need to make sure that everything merges together. Let's go to the edit command and we're adding material and let's merge with all. Great. For a moment, it was flashing a bit of an error and I will hit the check mark. You'll notice when I started this video, I had 3 parts. Now I'm down to 1 part. This is what I want. And that web looks strange because I need to create another extrude. Let's extrude and I will select this face on the sketch and this face. Let's do symmetric. And it is merging with part 1 automatically, and this is going to have a depth of 50. And let's rename this feature, and I will call this my outer side web extrudes. I'm making this one extrude feature, but it's 2 different faces that I am extruding, so I'll call it extrudes. That's good for that one, and this needs to have some fillets as well. Let's click on the fillet command, and I'm gonna have to pick 8 edges. I'll pick all 8 edges manually. There's giving me a value of 25. These need to have a value of 15. So let's pick that one and then rotate the model and grab this small edge, and then grab this one and this one. And now I'm going to repeat the process on the other side. There will be a total of 8 edges selected. And hit the check mark. And so this is good. This is coming together. This is just about all of the geometry. Let me hide my webs sketch. And there is a little extrude up at the top, and this is going to have a hole in the middle. And so I'm going to use an interesting technique in order to do this one. If you take a look at the drawing, you'll notice that there is a height dimension of 55 from the center of the cylinder. So I should have a sketch plane that is dimensioned off of the middle of the cylinder. And so normally I could create another sketch plane, but this is an excellent opportunity in order to use a mate connector for the sketch. I'm going to do some more videos on mate connectors just because they are so powerful in Onshape. I hope you get used to creating explicit mate connectors to help you out where necessary. Let's go to the mate connector command, and I'm going to select it so it gets right in the middle of the cylinder. Let me rotate the model just so I can make sure I'm getting it here. And so you can see a preview of it, but right now the orientation of the sketch or the mate connector is incorrect. I want it to be horizontal. So I will go to the mate connector dialog box and let's click on the Realign command. Let me zoom out a little bit and use the keyboard shortcut of, I tried to use the P command in order to turn on my plane display. Let me make them visible just so I can see the different ones on the computer screen. And so for the primary axis entity, this is the one with the blue arrow. This will end up defining the normal direction to the mate connector, which would be the normal direction of my sketch. I'm going to use the plane called top. Let's click that, and you can see that now the blue arrow is pointing up. We need a secondary axis entity. And I like to make sure I'm picking what I want to use just so that the sketch will be oriented on the sketch plane the way that I want. And so let's try using, I'm gonna try, is it right that I want? Let's try top, I think. No, let's try right. There we go. And I see that my mate connector kept the same orientation. Oh yeah, it needs to be higher than it is. It needs to be a distance of 55 from the middle of that cylinder. In order to do that, I will click on the button for move. And then we can move in the Z direction a value of 55, and you can see that now the make connector is where I would want to create my next sketch. Let's click on this. I could actually rename this. Let's call it my top sketch mate connector. So again, someone else picking up this model would end up understanding what this is being used for. And I can right click on the mate connector and choose new sketch. Hey, in case you are unaware, mate connectors can be used for your sketches. They can be used for your sketch planes. Let's view normal to the sketch plane. And I'm oriented the way that I want when I'm viewing normal. This is why I made a big deal about choosing the correct secondary direction for realigning the mate connector. This sketch is going to have two different circles. And actually, I can hide the mate connector now since I no longer need it. Another important note is that the origin of the mate connector is the origin of my sketch. And a reason why they are very handy. So let's let it snap into there. And I will exaggerate once more. Let's try a coincident constraint with this line. Oops. Let's see, what do I want to, let's try tangent. There we go. That one worked. If at first you don't succeed, try a different constraint. And let's create another circle and lock into the middle and throw in a diameter dimension for this one. Let's give it a value of 25 like it is supposed to be. And let's call this our, let me rename again, because once I get over a few features, I really like to rename stuff. Top extrude sketch. And hit the check mark. Let's rotate the model. And we will create our first extrude. Let's click on the extrude command, and I'm going to pick the outer face of that sketch. Let's flip the direction into the model. Instead of a blind depth, I'm going to use up to face, and I will pick the outer cylinder. And let's hit, oh, let's rename. Let's call this my top extrude. And hit the check mark. The top extrude sketch got turned off. I'm going to bring it back so I can create the cut going through the top of the model. Let's create our extrude. I'm going to explicitly choose that this needs to remove material. Let's pick the inner face of that sketch. It's going down into the model. Let me choose for the depth. I'm going to choose up to face. And last time I chose the outside of the cylinder. I'm going to choose the inside of the cylinder. There was some red showing me that there was something wrong with my merge scope, but when I chose that face to use for controlling the depth of this cut, it correctly selected the part for the merge scope. So all is good. Let me call this my top hole cut. Hit the enter key and hit the check mark. Let's hide that sketch. And so there we have our part corrected. Let me use the keyboard shortcut of P to turn off the display of the planes. And there we have this part created from the internet. By the way, in the part 1 video, I realized I had a bad verbal tick of saying so or and so. I endeavored to not repeat that mistake in this video, and I will try not to do that in any other future videos. But anyhow, let me know what you think about this part modeling exercise. I think there were a few good techniques that you could learn from this one.